back to my channel. It is Candace with the K here, where I normally talk books, beauty, and kicks. And my biggest question I have right now is, what did Apple TV do to Lessons in Chemistry? I finished Lessons in Chemistry as my last book of 2023 because I was so excited to watch Lessons in Chemistry on Apple TV, thinking that it was going to be the same exact book that I just finished reading. However, we have character changes, we have plot changes, we have so many things that left me wondering, this ain't Lessons in Chemistry. So let's talk about it. Now, this is in no way to bash the show. The show on Apple TV is very great. It's very well crafted, great actors, great everything. I will still encourage you to watch it, but I'm just questioning a lot of things. One thing about the book, Lessons in Chemistry, that I thoroughly enjoyed was the woman empowerment piece of how Elizabeth did not care to be homemaker, wife, none of that. All she cared about was science. So when I began watching the show, I was a little taken aback by how they crafted the narrative to fit more into homemaking. And what I mean by that is that Elizabeth didn't really put cooking at the forefront of her life until after she had her child. So the way that they tried to make it seem as though Elizabeth was this homemaker as well as a scientist is very misleading from the Elizabeth that I have come to know in the book. For me, by changing that small aspect of Elizabeth, it makes it completely different from what the book was about. Of course, some of the obvious things are like the Little Miss Hastings pageant. What was the point of doing that? It seemed as though they were trying to craft this narrative that Elizabeth is the complete opposite of a woman's woman, which she is, but that's all relative to her beauty, because what we know from Elizabeth in the book is that she is beautiful. That was the whole point, that she was this beautiful, brilliant mind that didn't want to fit into the norm of being a woman. So her beauty is the thing. Speaking of, Calvin Evans was supposed to be hideous. We were all supposed to be watching and questioning, how did this beautiful woman, Elizabeth Zott, end up with ugly ass Calvin Evans? And the TV show did the complete opposite of that. Like, almost made me want them to be together. And that's not what it was in the book. The book was Elizabeth settling for the ugly dude. Not settling. But Elizabeth ending up with the ugly dude while she was gorgeous, and left everybody thinking that she was just out to get his money because he was a famous scientist, not because she actually cared for him. So why y'all put this beautiful man in front of me? TV adaptation, Harriet is also Black. And so with her Blackness comes the whole civil rights plot and, you know, just the interrogation of Blackness. Also, partly, you know, white obtuse women, because you visibly see Harriet get upset with Elizabeth just from being so dense. But that strips Harriet from the book of her finding herself post being in a domestic violence situation. So in the book, we know Harriet to be this old white woman who in essence becomes Mad's nanny, caretaker during the day while Elizabeth's at work. But part of that is because she was getting away from an abusive husband. And so when I was having this conversation with my mom, she was like, well, maybe they didn't want to put all that in the show, but babe, we just got a rape scene. So you could have put even more of that in the show. I'm just curious as why they chose to go that direction with Harriet when there was such a great story already crafted around Harriet. More so, the way that kind of the ending of it, and like, I guess you don't want two sexual assault scenes in one show, but that happened to her almost again, and her fighting again with Donati. And my expectations for the show were far greater because the book was so good. It's not to say that the show reduced any of that. The show in its own right is great. But for people, the readers of the world who actually read the book and were expecting one thing, we got something completely different. And I think that is misleading to readers who then go view these adaptations, because we are hoping that the words that we've just digested are being brought to life, and not that they're being twisted, screwed, and misshapen, so to speak. I think what the writers did on the show was excellent. It's fabulous. But I wanted something that stayed true to the book. So many book adaptations that came out this year that are worth watching. And I still think Lessons in Chemistry is one. But if you have yet to watch Black Cake, my advice is you go get a Hulu account right now and you go watch it. Black Cake was crafted so well, and it did enough of putting in the pieces that we don't know or that we were left to imagine without stripping the story of itself. I would also add that on Apple TV, Laura Dave book, something about Never Told Me, something like that. I'll put it here. Also excellently done, because it didn't stray away from the book at all. It provided enough visual clarity to fill in any gaps that the book may have left unfinished. I would even go so far to add that The Other Black Girl, which was a book that I didn't even enjoy, however, the book adaptation I liked for the most part, up until pretty much the end. But there are ways to bring our stories to life without stripping them. And I think we have to get back to that. And so now I'll get off of my soapbox, but since you're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so I can see you in my next video. Peace.